We know South Asians are playing football. Data tells us they make up 6.5% of male grassroots players and 11.4% of female grassroots players. But the contrast to the professional scene is stark. Male playing numbers show a drop-off from development to scholar phase, and that falls even further when turning professional. So why is the South Asian talent out there not being identified and nurtured?
Some of it is about perception of senior coaches and scouts. A mother who said to me at one of the East Midlands clubs, when she did get down to why her son was dropped from the academy, the senior coach or scout had said that it was because of he wasn't going to risk his career on a South Asian footballer. And that was because there aren't any. And I guess coaches at some stage think the South Asian player's not going to make it.
In my first 6 months at Kick It Out, I probably had half a dozen South Asian parents come to me with exactly the same story. My kid is in the academy, and a scout has said to them, why should I waste time on your kid when you're going to want them to be an accountant, a doctor or a lawyer? One of those was a top 6 club, right? So these aren't like hick clubs out in the sticks that don't have South Asian communities. This was big metropolitan city, top 6 club. Would anyone say that about a young black kid's parents or a young white kid's parent?
I think one of the simple ways of looking at this is if you are out there and you are scouting a team, and it's a mixed team in an urban area or somewhere where people play together, and you're looking for talent, you know, you're going to be focused on the white player because you can see what they could become, right? They could become Harry Kane. There's a whole history, goes back hundreds of years of good white players, if we're talking, you know, in ethnic terms. If you see a black player or a mixed heritage player, then you can begin to think, wow, you know, that could be Bukayo Saka. That could be Rio Ferdinand. Again, there's a long history there of professional footballers going back to Arthur Wharton. If you look at an Asian kid and they look talented to you, you're going to think, well, who could that be? It's not just the kids that think about role models, it's also the coach or the scout or the other people who are in the system who are responsible for identifying talent. It's not always conscious, it's not always done in a malign way. But if you're out there and your primary purpose is to identify talent that can then be ready to play professional football, you don't look at Asian kids, and that may be part of your thought process.
You set up Desi Ballers because you wanted to showcase the talent that is out there and all these positive stories that do exist.
If I go back a few years, the only stories that you see about South Asians in football was the lack of, or where are they, and what should be done to tackle the lack of representation. And we forgot about the player, we forgot about the human, we forgot about the journey. And one way to normalise South Asian players, especially in the minds of viewers, in terms of fans, in terms of coaches, scouts, is to show them performing on the field. I thought, well, I'm seeing them, other people aren't, so I'll create a platform to showcase that. It's that normalisation of stories on a mainstream platform. We're not just that one-off story because it's Eid or Diwali or it's a special occasion. It's week on week, day by day, and then you can look at a body of work over a period of time.
Numbers have increased. Academies with at least one player of South Asian heritage has grown to 63%, a 10% increase on the 2021-22 season.
As an overall academy, I think we can have an initiative to provide more diversity, whether it's from South Asian backgrounds or anyone else. I think as a whole we'll be much stronger if we have more diverse individuals in our academies. A lot of Premier League initiatives and the EFL are doing work with recruitment departments, so education and looking at how you're assessing potential rather than current performance. Obviously, with so many different backgrounds and different genetics and growth spurts that they might have, this can occur at so many different times of their life. So it's just more helping educate and understand what they might be seeing at different clubs that they're going to or different games. I think obviously you can do that in different ways depending on your infrastructure. If you already had scouts in the local area, but then connecting with your grassroots clubs. We're trying to, from a talent ID perspective, get more eyes across Southampton and local areas, and that's something we're going to be increasing, definitely not only this season, but seasons to come. We have a responsibility to show and help inspire the new generation.
So let's meet some of the next generation.
Playing the Premier League, World Cup is what everyone wants as a footballer, and that's my goal. Being a Sikh isn't really a barrier, or it doesn't mean anything in terms of becoming a footballer. I think if you're good enough and you work hard enough, you should get there. Now, Bournemouth have been really good about it, especially I was on trial for an extended period here. And the whole time I felt part of it, even when I got signed into the new season. They've really helped me get involved and not make me feel like an outsider at all.
I used to play with my dad all the time at home, just in my back garden, with cousins, school. I haven't ever been in a team with a South Asian, so it's always just been me. I feel like the game is for everyone. If you want to play it, you can play it no matter your race, skin, it doesn't matter. If you enjoy the sport, you enjoy it. I want to be an aspiration to younger children, whether it's boys, girls in the Asian community.
I didn't really see any South Asian footballers in the Premier League when you're watching TV, so hopefully one day I'll be on the TV and showing younger kids that there is a pathway, and if they're dedicated and they work hard, then it's there to be won. I mean, people have been saying I'll be in the history books. I'm like, no, I don't really feel it. It's just I'm still the same person, still Ramal. Like, I don't know, there's not really much more you can say. You just got to keep going and do what I do best.
So what about those on the touchline? Representation is lacking in that area too. The FA inclusion plan shows just 2.2% of coaches are South Asian, but there are some who've broken the trend.
Growing up in the early 80s as a South Asian female, the visibility that we see now definitely didn't exist then. What I had to find were attributes of individuals, some fantastic allies and mentors to continue to help me build resilience, because when you're in an environment where you do not see people like you, for many years have seen it be similar, the level of motivation to believe that you can continue to progress and develop as an individual becomes really difficult.
Somebody who is like me, coming from my background, is like walking into a room that you feel like you don't belong every day. So you feel like you have to prove to everybody who's there on a daily basis that you are worthy of being there for your talent, because you almost expect and think that people are writing you off before you even, in my case, start coaching. That may not be the case, but that's something that's been ingrained in me because of my upbringing as a player and some of the experiences as a player and as a young coach. That can be tiring, but also I think it's built this resilience and grit in me to always want to prove people that my name is known, not because I'm a South Asian, but because I am a good coach. Growing up as a player in an academy, I never saw anybody who looked like they came from my community and background. I think when you see somebody who perhaps looks like your uncle, your father, or somebody in your cultural community, sometimes it can give you an instant ease and a sense of security. And I think if you are able to connect with an individual based on your cultural upbringing, you might know the things that might make them struggle in an environment or might be more difficult than the rest of the group. I think a big thing is feeling like you belong to a group. So we need to do more as clubs to make sure our coaching staff and staff in back offices represent the whole community.
I think what happens is when you are from the same culture and the same background, you have this level of empathy. It gets you to really dig deep within yourself. And what that's done for me as a South Asian female has got me to want to fight. So I think coming from the same background has a different level of connection, because you look like each other, you've got synergy, and there's shared synergy in your story and this story of struggle. What I will say is that that doesn't mean that others cannot equally connect. If we truly want the best talent, we need to challenge our biases about what that looks like. You don't just want to be the first. What you want to do is be the first to then create a legacy, create a pathway for others. And hopefully one day I can turn around and say that actually it's not just Manisha Taylor the first, it's actually Manisha Taylor the one of many.
A coach with the first team, Zesh Rayman, helped Portsmouth get promoted to the Championship. He's also the only British South Asian to play in England's top 4 leagues. What advice would he give to youngsters today?
Firstly, enjoy the game, love the game, play for the love of the game. And then secondly, just make the most of every single training session. Learn what you can from the players around you, from your coaches. Ask questions, don't be shy, have some personality about yourself. Be prepared to step out of your comfort zone and be prepared for when it goes tough, but also be able to bounce back and tap into people around you. So it's a non-linear journey, but if you believe in yourself and you're focused and you've got the determination, then anything's possible in the game.
What about those in the boardroom? Can an increase in representation at the top bring positive change for those on the pitch?
The reason it's important to us at Arsenal is not because we want to tick a box, not because we think it's good for PR, or not because we think it is just nebulously the right thing to do. We do it because we operate in one of the most competitive industries in the world, on the pitch and off the pitch. And there are thousands of empirical studies that prove that diverse organisations perform better.
If you've got, I don't know, 2 South Asian players in Arsenal in 15 years' time, how will that impact fans and groups of people in India, Pakistan? There's obviously 2 billion people in that part of the world. Will that be good for business here?
Well, I think if there was more South Asian representation on the pitch across the Premier League, that would be great for driving greater fan interest in South Asia. But that, of course, shouldn't be the reason, right? People have to be on the pitch by merit, and that is always going to be the case. Going back to the work that we do on pathways in particular around South Asians, it's all around that. So to be the best that you can be, we need to encourage more South Asians to take up the game at a younger age, encourage them to stay in the game, encourage them to get the right coaching so they have the ability to get right to the top end of that pyramid. When young boys and girls enter those pathways, what they see at Arsenal in the first team coaching setup, in the academy coaching setup, is South Asian representation. So when people enter our pathways, they feel that there is South Asian representation from the people that are helping them develop their careers.
I don't think it's as much about causation as correlation, right? So, for example, you look at the representation of black players on the pitch, that's not necessarily reflected in the boardroom. I don't think the two are necessarily intrinsically linked, but obviously, if you have more representation in the boardroom, we're able to set the tone for the organization. We're able to make sure that we're pushing the agenda. I'm bringing my lived experience to the table. You embed it within the DNA of the club, then automatically you start to see representation improve. Nobody wants to be known as the only South Asian person to win the Champions League or to sit in a boardroom. We want to be recognized for being really good at what we do. And what I would like to see is that we don't have to do things like this where we're highlighting minorities because we have actual equality. But we're not there yet. And so I think if I was seeing somebody from, an Indian background, South Asian background on our pitch every week, what really excites me is the potential domino effect of that. If that means that many, many more young people from our backgrounds want to enter the game, that is what impact looks like. And that's the stuff that we need to make sure that we're carrying on a legacy of change, not just one example. I think if it's one person, we failed.